today's video, we look at a host of motorcycle miniature options for use in Gaslands, the game of post-apocalyptic vehicular combat. Well, hi folks, welcome to the channel. This is Lee from skirmishwargames.com. And today we're going to take a look at some motorcycle miniature options for use in Gaslands, the game of post-apocalyptic vehicular combat by Osprey Wargames. So if you've watched our previous Gaslands videos, then you've probably seen us turning Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars into our own versions of arena death machines. But up to this point, we haven't made any Gaslands motorcycles yet. We did do a Gaslands-style land speeder race not too long ago that included some speeder bikes from Micro Machines, which just happened to be a pretty good match scale-wise for the Hot Wheels land speeders we were using. However, for a good old-fashioned post-apocalyptic Gaslands brouhaha, we don't have any bikes yet, and so we're going to make a few. So today I thought we'd take a look at some of the bike miniatures I've been stockpiling over the last few months and kind of compare them with some Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars to see what scales seem to work the best, and also compare the various bikes against each other so we can see how the sizes and scales kind of vary. So there's nothing new under the sun, and nothing I'm going to show you is any big secret, and I'm sure lots of other people have already used all of these things in one form or another. But maybe it'll give you a few ideas for building your own biker gang for Gaslands. So to start off, I thought we'd take a look at some typical Hot Wheels and or Matchbox vehicles that you might see in a Gaslands game, just to get a sense of the scale, and then we can use these for motorcycle size comparisons. One of the challenges of Gaslands, if you're really finicky about scale, is that Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars are not consistent in scale at all. For instance, here's a 1956 Hot Wheels Hightailer pickup from 1973 with a couple of motorbikes in the back, a couple of dirt bikes. And then you compare that scale to this Hot Wheels sheriff's car, and you see the height is very different. Or compare the truck to this 2014 Matchbox Jeep Trailhawk, and you see the scales are kind of all over the place. So, but that's fine. I mean, these are kids' toys, and we're converting them for wargaming use. So, a little bit of variation in the scales to be expected. But it can make it difficult if you want your motorcycles to be more or less the same scale as the vehicles. So we will try our best. And speaking of this old Hot Wheels Hightailer truck, he actually has a couple of plastic dirt bikes in the back. So in a pinch, you could pop those out of there, find a couple of riders, and use these for the Gaslands arena. But I'm not quite there yet. Maybe someday. But in the meantime, let's take a look at some other motorcycles from various sources and see how they match up to these vehicles and each other. So up to this point, we haven't based any of our Gaslands vehicles. I like to glue the wheels. Lynn likes to let hers roll free, but we haven't put any MDF or plastic bases on them yet. However, with motorcycles, it might be a good idea since they might be a little tippy otherwise. So if you look at the recommendations for bases in the rule book, for bikes, they have a minimum base size recommendation of a 20 millimeters by 30 millimeters. So that is more or less about that size right there. So we'll use that kind of as a starting point to kind of gauge scale. This is the minimum base size recommendation. Obviously, this could be a little bit bigger, but we'll start there because that's what we have. Okay, let's start by looking at some 20 millimeter resin motorcycles from a company called Ramshackle Games. This is their 20 millimeter biker gang with 11 different models. So you got some bikes, there's some trikes. Here's another trike. And then this little mini bike here doesn't have any rider at all. So these are supposed to be about 20 millimeters, so using our little 20 by 30 millimeter base as a guide, that guy fits pretty good on there. These bigger ones would fit pretty good on there. However, scale-wise, compared to the 1956 pickup, you can see that this looks like he's a hobbit on a mini bike. Maybe not so terrible compared to the sheriff's vehicle, but probably a little bit on the small side for most folks. Okay, we're going to keep a couple of Ramshackle miniatures out for comparison. Some of you graybeards out there may remember going back to 1988 Dark Future from Games Workshop. That was kind of their Mad Max / Car Wars miniatures game. And some might call it sacrilege, but I'm going to go ahead and break these out of the blister pack because the packaging's damaged anyway. There's a bike and a trike in here, and assuming that the scale is pretty good, these are going to make some great Gaslands motorcycles. So let's get them into the rotation. Just set that there for the moment. Keep it stable. Get rid of this tiny piece of lead. These are back from the days of lead minis. And then here's the top half of the Dark Future motorcycle biker. Here's another top half. So comparing these to our Ramshackle Games bikes. You can see quite a bit of difference there. And let's see how they size up compared to our Matchbox and Hot Wheels. Probably a closer fit with the pickup, but still a little bit on the large side probably. There is the 20 by 30 millimeter base. That is the smallest base size recommended for Gaslands motorcycles, according to the Gaslands rulebook. So yeah, probably a little bit large, but hey, it's Dark Future, so I could live with it just because of the cool factor. Okay, so that's our Dark Future minis, and now that they're broken out of the blister pack, I'm obligated to actually assemble and paint them. So going more recent, here's a packet of new metal bikes from a company called Villain Miniatures. I actually purchased these from their store on Etsy, so that's where I got these. And let's go ahead and get these out of the pack, and we'll see how they compare to the Dark Future minis. Okay, so here is our Dark Future bike, and here is the Villain Miniatures bike. And these definitely have a Mad Max vibe going on there. So just to give you a comparison, there is the torso from Villain Miniatures, and there's a torso from Dark Future. All right, put those over there. Don't lose any parts. I'm going to need those later on. Okay, moving on with more metal minis. This is All Quiet on the Martian Front. These are the Texas Rangers on motorcycles. These are 15 millimeter. The advantage to this is this pack was only about 10 bucks. So they're a little bit smaller, but you get a lot of them for the money. So let's see how these guys compare. Okay, as you can see, there's a lot of bikes in there. Okay, so there is our 20 by 30 millimeter base, and there is the 15 millimeter Texas Ranger on motorcycle miniature. There is the torsos, and there's a few weapons. Yeehaw! Compared to our pickup, that does seem a little bit small. Compared to the Sheriff, yeah, still a little bit on the small side, but not too much different than the Ramshackle Games resin miniatures. So if you're okay with these, you'd probably be okay with these. And as you can see, you get a whole batch of them for about 10 bucks. So if you're not too hung up on the scale, if you're okay with it being a little bit small, this can be a pretty cheap option for a bunch of motorcycles. However, they are World War I motorcycles, so you have to factor that in too. But again, there you go. So just for comparison, there is Ramshackle, there is All Quiet on the Martian Front, and then there is our Villain Miniatures and Dark Future. So that's what we're at so far. Okay, now I have one more set of metal miniatures to show you. These are from a company called West Wind. This is a werewolf biker gang. So yeah, these are probably way too large if you're gas landing with Hot Wheels, but if you're doing a larger format game, maybe with 28 millimeter vehicles instead of 164 type Hot Wheels and Matchbox, then these might be a good fit. Plus they're werewolves. Okay, so that is roughly what our bike looks like. And there is the rider. So that is a werewolf biker from West Wind. And then here's the Villain Miniatures and Dark Future again. Okay, so that's the metal miniatures. I'm just going to set these aside for right now. And hopefully I'm able to sort out all the parts when I need to. All right, let's take a look at some plastic motorcycles. I'm going to start out with the Sons of Anarchy, Men of Mayhem board game tokens. This is one of those ideas that I got online from a variety of sources. And so when the Sons of Anarchy television show ended its run, then these games went on sale. And I looked today, and Amazon still has them on sale on Amazon Prime for, I think, 17 bucks with free shipping if you're a Prime member. And you get quite a few bikes. You get a few of these little guys. It could be zombies or something like that. But quite a few of these biker tokens. They're all the same. They're different colors. But you get a bunch of them for the money. And let's take a look at our comparison here. Just almost exactly on the 20 by 30 millimeter base. And yeah, you know, that's pretty good, actually. The only downside is it's the same figure. So the colors are different, but the pose doesn't change. So if you want to have some variety on your team, it might be a little bit repetitive. There's the comparison to the sheriff's car. And then our kind of oversized pickup there. But again, for the money, if you're looking for a lot of tokens, you don't want to spend a lot of money, 17 bucks, and then you get the game too. So if you're a Sons of Anarchy fan and need another board game for your shelf, that might be something to think about. So that is the Sons of Anarchy Men of Mayhem token set from the out of production board game, which is on clearance in most places. So occasionally during the holidays, people will say, oh, we want to get you something, what do you want for Christmas? And I don't need anything. I don't want people spending a lot of money. So I was just telling them, well, there's those little mini motorcycle ornaments from Hallmark. Yeah, we're kind of digging those. And they're pretty cool. I think these are some of the best options if you don't mind turning a keepsake into a wargaming piece. So let's take a look at some of those. And sometimes you can find a combined lot of them for sale on eBay and pick up a whole bunch. But these are some of the ones that we have. You do have to pull off these tiny little hooks. Going to have to unscrew those, have to find some riders, and then weather them. But in terms of the detail and everything, these are pretty cool. And I don't have any problem converting them. I didn't tell people what I was going to use them for over the holidays, but they won't mind. A gift is a gift, right? So as you can see, that's a little bit larger than our 20 by 30 millimeter base, which is probably a good thing. This is probably just about the right size. Here's how it compares to the Matchbox Jeep and the sheriff's car. And finally, the pickup. So I would say that these are actually pretty good options. I just have to find some appropriate riders, and I'm kind of really digging this police tricycle. I don't know if that's a meter maid's bike or whatever, but I can definitely see something being mounted on the back there. So again, comparing to our Ramshackles, these are quite a bit bigger than the Ramshackle 20 millimeters, quite a bit bigger than the 15 millimeter All Quiet on the Martian Front bikes, and looks like a size or two smaller than the Villain Miniatures and the Dark Future motorbikes. But yeah, so far I think this is the best size of all the stuff we've looked at so far. I guess you could say that's probably comparable to the Sons of Anarchy Men of Mayhem tokens. So some of you who've watched our other Gaslands videos may have seen the land speeder race that we did using Hot Wheels land speeders and Micro Machine speeder bikes. And actually the scales were pretty good. They actually lined up pretty well. These, on the other hand, are Micro Machine motorcycles. Unfortunately, they don't have the same scale as the Micro Machine speeder bikes. These are quite a bit smaller. So they certainly are colorful and not terribly expensive, and they got some nice detail on them. But they are small. So this is a little Micro Machines motorcycle on a stand compared to the pickup truck. And then not terribly out of scale compared to the Matchbox Jeep. And probably okay next to the sheriff's vehicle. But you would just have to decide. Here's the Hallmark bikes. There's the Ramshackle. There's the 15 millimeter. So yeah, here's the 20 by 30 millimeter base, and you put that guy on there, and he's a pretty good fit. So it's probably a little bit small scale-wise, but it fits on the small base pretty well. It wouldn't look too out of place with a smaller scale Matchbox vehicle or Hot Wheels. But yeah, if you had a Hot Wheels that was kind of a little bit larger in terms of scale, then you might look like you were fighting halflings on pocket bikes. Moving on. Let's see. God, I love eBay sometimes. So this was a pack of 700 172 scale miniatures that they were selling as a bundle. But the reason I bid on it was that it included all of these little motorcycles. Now, I don't know where these came from, and these are kind of a hard, brittle plastic, more like a Revell model plastic than the soft plastic that you might get from a game token. But there was a lot of bikes in here, and some other stuff like this bomb. Okay. So yeah, so we got all these bikes. So it looks like some of these are just like guys on scooters, and some are German machine gunners in sidecars. Taking a look at our 20 by 30 millimeter base for scale, and yeah, he fits right on there. Again, this guy is going to be considerably smaller than the Hallmark sidecar motorcycle, but cheap. I forget what the price on these are, but they're not pennies on the dollar like these other guys. So I can convert these and even destroy them to my heart's content and not feel that guilty. These I want to be a little more careful with. Okay, I'm sorry that I do not know what the brand of all these old motorcycles are. Otherwise I would tell you. But there's a ton of companies selling German motorcycle kits. I think I got most of these off of Amazon. This one looks like it's a Russian kit. This one, 172 scale from a company called Hat. Okay, so that's kind of what you get. So again, soft plastic. Probably a little bit large for 172, like there's the comparison with the Hallmark motorcycle. So yeah, just eyeballing it, looks like these bikes are probably a little bit larger than the minimum recommended 20 by 30 millimeter motorcycle base. But maybe they'd be fine. I'll have to break one of these out and paint it up and see how it compares to everything else. But that's what you get with the Hat 172 scale World War II German motorcycles kit. And what'd you get? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 6 bikes. I think you get 6 bikes out of that. So here's another kit. This looks like it might be Russian. Okay, this is more of a hard plastic, and it looks like, you can see they're significantly smaller than the Hat motorcycle plastic. This is a softer plastic. This is a more hard, brittle plastic, and the bike seems to be quite a bit smaller. And you only get the one sprue. So basically you're making one motorcycle and sidecar, and that's it. That's all you get. All right, we'll keep that out for comparison. And then finally, so 172 scale figures, contains 4 motorcycles, 2 with sidecars, 16 figures. And this one says, War Games approved. And let's see. So that is the most recent one. That is the Russian one. And there is Hat, wherever that came from. All right, so if you got a hankering for making a German World War II motorcycle and sidecar, there's a lot of different kits available for that. You can take your pick. So I wish I could say that Hot Wheels and Matchbox had appropriately sized motorcycles that you could buy just off the rack. Not to my knowledge. They do sell motorcycles, like here's some old ones, but you can see they're quite large. But if everyone was running bikes of this size, you could probably have a pretty good bike and trike war just using comparable Hot Wheels and Matchbox motorcycles. Though even those are not consistent. So go figure. Well, folks, that is my suggestions, my cornucopia of different motorcycle options for Gaslands. Maybe you can grab an idea or two in here that seems to work for you and your own sense of scale. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what we do here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give this video a big thumbs up and visit us online at our website, skirmishwargames.com.